Have you ever noticed how the most powerful growth in your business happens after you've cleared away what no longer serves you? Hmm. Well, since today is Ash Wednesday, we're actually exploring how the sacred Lenten practice of intentional release can transform your business as well. And if this is your first time tuning into Wisdom Wednesday, I am Gloria Grace Rand, founder of Align to Shine Academy, where we empower women over 50 to embrace their divine purpose and shed limiting beliefs, creating lives filled with self love and meaningful connections. So, yeah, it's interesting that I didn't even think about that. Of course, if I'm doing these Wednesday Wisdom Wednesdays, that eventually it would land on Ash Wednesday, and which is something I used to practice. I was raised Catholic, and of course, in probably many Christian traditions, but definitely for Catholics in particular, this is a day that we would fast, and it's a day that you would uh, go to church, and they would put ashes, mark the sign of the cross on your forehead, and it's about really preparing yourself, spending the next 40 days in preparation for Easter when Jesus rose from the dead. So that's the purpose of this, and it is about spending time in reflection and releasing. And so people would say in the Catholic tradition, you'd give up meat on Fridays, so you only have fish on Fridays, for instance. Although not all churches do that, which kind of, sort of weakens the whole point of it. But let's talk about this from a different perspective. And I like to share the daily word from Unity, and that's what prompted today's talk today. So I'm going to share, because I think this will help sort of get you into how then I'm going to equate this with what we can do both in our personal lives and in our business. So it says, as Lent begins, I draw my attention inward and allow myself a period of deep contemplation. In this sacred space, I discover all I'd like to release. As I fast from those habits and beliefs that do not serve me, I feast on the spiritual truth I know. I'm grateful for this period leading up to Easter to practice this truth and experience it deep in my heart. I feel supported knowing that, like me, countless others will be walking the same path during the coming weeks, this same walk of growth and transformation. I hold all of us in prayer during every day of Lent, feeling the energy of renewal and our oneness in God, strengthening our resolve and guiding our way. So, what I love about, and things I love about Unity, is that they really are inclusive. So, you don't have to be religious. You don't have to be practicing Catholic. Certainly, you don't have to be Christian. You could be whatever you believe in. You don't have to be religious at all. But I think the message here is still valid, because it talks about, giving up, releasing those habits and beliefs that do not serve me. And this is something that is very near and dear to my heart, because it's part of the love method that that was an inspiration that came to me, and that I wrote about in my book. And so the love, LOVE method, I guess I could even say, because love is an acronym. So the L stands for let go and let God. And so it really is about letting go of things that don't serve you, letting go of limiting beliefs, letting go of expectations of how things have to turn out. Sometimes we have that even in our businesses. It's like, oh, we want this to be a certain way. And sometimes the universe has different ideas about that, and it doesn't go the way that we planned, and we have to then surrender actually to that, and to release that attachment to it, and just say, okay, I don't know why this is happening this way, so I trusting that there is a better idea in mind, that again, the universe, God, however you believe, your higher self, that maybe my higher self knows something better, and that this wasn't supposed to happen in this way. And that will tend to happen. And I think especially if you approach it from that perspective. See, now if you're holding on and you're like, this was supposed to be this way, then it's going to be harder for you to attract whatever different idea perhaps that the universe wanted for you. And so if you can let that go, release it, and be open to possibilities, then magic can happen. And I've shared this story. I've shared it on my podcast before, that I was going to do a workshop a few years ago, and I had to keep postponing it for different reasons. One time it was because of a hurricane. So it was going to be in Cocoa Beach, and then a hurricane was threatened the area. So I had to postpone it. Then I had to postpone it because my sister, who was going through cancer at the time, had a crisis. And so I had to be with her. And so I was like, okay, I could have just thrown up my hands and said, you know what? This isn't meant to be. and just said, screw it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to run it. But I just said, okay, if the people are still willing to come, if I postpone it one more time, I'm hoping that the third time will be the charm. And sure enough, it was. And even though it happened, actually, it wound up being a month after my sister passed, which was a hard thing to get through. I mean, that first standing up in front of people and being able to just, I had to take a breath and be present for them. It took a lot to do that. And I was also filled with such gratitude. Yeah, I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking about it, because I was so grateful. Wow, that these people showed up, and that they were committed to supporting me, even though the thing had gotten, postponed a couple times. So that's why, whatever is going on in your life right now, whether it's, if things aren't working out the way that you wanted them to, perhaps, and sometimes it is because sometimes it's because we have some unconscious beliefs that we're not even aware of. And so that's why I'm going to give you some practical advice now from a spiritual perspective. So how can you learn to let go of some of these things? Well, I believe in two of my favorite practices. Number one is to meditate, to spend time, and it doesn't have to be necessarily a formal meditation. Spend time in mindfulness. Just spend quiet time with yourself to get to know your higher self. So that could be going for a walk. That could be sitting down somewhere. It could be just listening to some soft music. It could be listening to a guided meditation. There's lots of them available. There's apps. YouTube has them. Whatever works for you. And you might have to experiment and try some different things to see what works for you. So that's a really good way of being able to start to get connected to yourself, so that it will help you start to uncover things that you'll start getting insights or divine downloads, as I like to call them, where you're like, oh, maybe that's why that happened, or, ooh, you might start remembering things that maybe from your, when you were growing up, and the messages perhaps that your parents or your school or friends, somebody, had taught you, and that were like, you realize now it's like, that might have been good advice when I was 5, but at 55, maybe not so much. And then journaling. Oh, I love journaling. Journaling is such a wonderful practice, again, for helping you to start uncovering what is going on that you would like to be able to release. And so when you can start, I love following the practice. I think it's Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way. She talks about, and I didn't get very far in that book, but I sort of still that first one of those first chapters, she talks about morning pages, and where she just writes 3 pages and with no aim. She just keeps her pen moving across the page. And sometimes, and I do this too, it's like I will be writing, I don't know what to write today, but I'm going to trust that eventually something is going to come through, and I'm going to, and it does. And like this morning, I was going to stop at one page, and then it was like, no, keep going, because I was running late. That was the thing. I got up late and then meditated longer than I anticipated, and but it was like, no, keep going. So yeah, I think that's essentially it. So I think just to spend some time doing things like that, do that journal practice, whatever works for you. And maybe it's in the morning, maybe it's at night, maybe it's the middle of the day, but spend some time writing down your thoughts. And I do encourage doing that sort of free form thing, because you can have different journals. I mean, I also have a gratitude journal that I keep at night. So I always write down at least 3 things that I'm grateful for that happened during the day, because I want to be able to go to bed with a positive frame of mind so that I wake up in the morning feeling grateful that I woke up. Yay. And, as I get older, it's nice to be able to wake up in the morning. And I had a sibling who died really young. I mean, at 33, he did not wake up. He lay down for a nap and did not wake up. So I treasure every day that I'm here on this planet to be able to contribute my little bit in the world. So I want to leave you one last thing before I sign off for today, is that the daily word from Unity always includes an affirmation in their daily messages. And today's is, I welcome the Lenten journey of renewal and release. And I didn't really talk enough about renewal, but I hope it's implied, although my mother taught me you never assume, so I don't want you to assume. But when you release, it definitely helps you to then be able to renew your spirit. And that's what I do think meditation is good for as well, or just walking outside. You spend this time renewing yourself. And maybe you do spend some time, maybe take a day and fast. I've been doing every 3-4 weeks or so, I'm spending at least one day fasting. My goal is to do 3. I did 2 this last time. So I'm shooting for 3 the next time around when I do that. But I think that it also is a really good way to be able to help your body to renew itself. So yeah, I think that's going to do it for today. So I hope you received some value out of this. And if you did, share it with a friend. And I'll be back again next week with another message. So take care, and I'll see you then.